Today's video is brought to you in part by the Neo Geo Mini. We'll have a lot more information about it towards the end of this video, but in case you are interested, the Neo Geo Mini is similar to other consoles out there on the market right now that allow you to play a slew of games from a backlog library of Neo Geo's catalog. But unlike the rest, this one actually comes with a mini LCD screen and controller arcade stick built into it. The device is so small you can play it in your hands, and with the portable battery on you, you can play it anywhere you'd like. You can hook it up to your TV with a mini HDMI cable, as well as hook up extra controllers. These accessories are sold separately for you and your friend to play 40 different games from the Neo Geo lineup. Games like the Metal Slug franchise, Samurai Showdown franchise, and the King of Fighters franchise. The Neo Geo Mini is a great gift for friends and families to come and play together. And if you want to pick one up today, there's a link in the description box down below. Neo Geo and SNK did send me the product and asked me to give my unfiltered thoughts, so hang around to the end of the video to see what I thought of it. Thank you guys for watching and enjoy today's episode. No series is perfect. Even the most beloved franchises contain an entry or two that are less popular than the rest. And it feels like the more beloved the series, the more the outliers within them are outright despised. People tend to hate on Super Mario Sunshine, and most Resident Evil fans try their best to forget the disaster of Resident Evil 6. And then there's the red-headed stepchild of the Batman Arkham franchise, Arkham Origins. It receives far more criticism than its predecessors, and today, it's still thought of as somehow less legitimate than the other Arkham titles. But it may not be as bad as people claim. In fact, it may be the source of some of the Arkham game's most satisfying elements. I'll see for myself when I don the cowl once again and complete Batman Arkham Origins. Season's greetings, everyone, and welcome back to another brand new episode of The Completionist. The holidays are here, so I'm completing a holiday-themed Batman game, Arkham Origins. Now, some of the best Christmas stuff is pretty dark. I'd much rather watch Die Hard than A Miracle on 34th Street. And instead of milking cookies out for Santa Claus, I would rather come out and openly worship Krampus. That dude's pretty metal. Also, The Dark Knight's pretty metal. Christmas is metal. Let's begin. Yes! Arkham Asylum did the impossible when it brought us a Batman game that wasn't just good, but excellent. And then Arkham City delivered a miracle when it was somehow even better than the first one. The folks at Rocksteady had some ambitious ideas for their next sequel, and they were raring to immediately go all in on it. But what they had in mind was gonna take some time, and WB was having none of that. They knew the public was thirsty for even more Batman, so they handed the franchise reins over to WB Montreal. Their job was to develop a stopgap Arkham title while Rocksteady was plugging away at their next-gen magnum opus. The original pitch was for a prequel set during DC Comics' Silver Age, with planned appearances by a bunch of Batman's pals. But a game in which the Super Friends are going around breaking thugs' bones was never meant to be. The tone was reverted back to Arkham's familiar gothic grit, but the prequel concept stuck around. While WB Montreal implemented plenty of new ideas within their project, like new enemy types and a vastly expanded Gotham City, for the most part, they left the Arkham formula well enough alone. The series wasn't broken, so they weren't trying to fix it. They played it really safe with tons of reused assets, areas, and gameplay elements from Arkham City. That is, except for the addition of the multiplayer mode, which no one expected, no one really wanted, and no one had many nice things to say about. When Batman Arkham Origins was released in 2013, it earned a fair amount of praise, with people seeming to particularly enjoy its narrative and its boss fights. But the sheer glut of complaints just drowned out all that positivity. Many criticized the game's empty-feeling world, its general lack of innovation compared to Arkham City, and the myriad technical issues it was infected with. Even though most of the glitches were fixed soon after release, the damage to Arkham Origins' reputation was done. Now, everyone only seems to remember it as that other Arkham game. It was even left out of that Batman Return to Arkham collection from a while back. Like, damn, you guys were really not trying to invite this game to join in any reindeer games. But thanks to the magic of the Xbox One's backwards compatibility, I'll be able to judge for myself whether all of the hate is warranted. Arkham Origins continues the tradition of each subsequent Arkham title swelling larger and larger. When it comes to completion, this one is supposed to be the biggest and hardest one I've done so far. My first goal will be to take down the campaign, followed by New Game Plus, with its carried over upgrades and higher difficulty right after that. Not to mention the DLC mini campaign, Cold Cold Heart, which features Mr. Freeze, the Batman villain who was most tragically misrepresented by Schumacher and company. But it doesn't stop there. There's also I Am the Night mode, in which I'll have to beat the game yet again without dying once. If I do, it's right back to the start. But let's be clear, Batman never dies, so it's all good. And even if he does, he'll just come back with a Lazarus Pits or a Black Lantern ring or Cloud Saving or whatever. The next stop on my journey will be to max out everything. That includes all of Batman's stats, unlocking all of his gear, completing every side quest, and collecting every single Riddler trophy. Oh right, this is a prequel, so they're not Riddler trophies quite yet, but whatever they are, there are hundreds of them, and I gotta grab them all again. It just wouldn't be an Arkham game without a raging narcissist yelling at you while you pick up little pieces of crap off the ground. Once that's done, I'll be knocking out any leftover achievements. Most of them seem like no-brainers, but some sound pretty daunting, including a couple of boss fights that have to be beaten without getting touched once. Not to mention the addition of the Dark Knight challenge tracks, in-game achievements that are actually missable if you don't focus on knocking them out as soon as possible. Perfect. Just perfect. And lastly, I'll have to complete those good old challenge maps. They're an Arkham series staple with combat challenges and predator challenges up the wazoo. Plus, I'll have to do them all 3 times each thanks to the addition of Bruce Wayne and Deathstroke as playable characters via DLC. It's times like this that I have to remember what Batman would do. Thank his lucky stars that the multiplayer servers were shut down ages ago, meaning I don't have to worry about it. No multiplayer for me.
Actually, they're still up.
What do you mean they're still up?
Yeah, they're apparently still going, but only for the Xbox 360. People are still playing against each other.
Okay, so the real last thing I'll have to do is grind out the multiplayer achievements, and depending on the progression system and what it's like, I might have to spend even more time unlocking online rewards. God damn it, this is not fair. It wasn't supposed to be like this. I had an out, god damn it.
Just remember what Batman would do.
I don't care what he'd do. That motherfucker is rich. I ain't got that kind of time. For the most part, Arkham Origins aesthetics are just Arkham cities all over again. Everywhere you look, there are reused assets, areas, and elements, making this game feel more like an update or a side story than a full-fledged sequel, or prequel, or whatever. But the few ways in which Arkham Origins does strike out on its own are surprisingly well done. Not all of the choices this game makes are good ones, but it feels so damn similar to its predecessor, it can't help but be dope. As for its story, 'twas the night before Christmas, round Batman's year 2, when a breakout at Blackgate was about to ensue. The heinous Black Mask was behind the offense, and he had hoped that the Croc would provide some defense. But Batman just bopped him and knew just the right spot to make the Croc sing and reveal Black Mask's plot. 8 deadly assassins all assembled that night, chasing after 50 million for taking out the Dark Knight. Now Batman's on the hunt as villains strike without warning. He'll save his fair Gotham if he survives until morning. First off, this premise is capital B-A-D ass. It's like something out of Smokin' Aces. The whole bunch of assassins hired to kill a dude with a time window of just one night is naturally exciting. You know something new and dope is gonna pop up every couple of minutes, and Arkham Origins delivers. All finished busting up a drug ring? Boom, you just got poisoned by Copperhead. Heading across that there bridge, bam, Firefly comes out of nowhere to roast your ass. And the whole thing taking place on Christmas Eve only makes things creepier. In a good way, of course. This lady right here didn't just get kidnapped and tortured. She got kidnapped and tortured on the happiest, most magical night of the year. This is what trauma looks like, folks. It's also interesting to see such a unique take on Batman's different relationships due to how early in his career this game takes place. This is still that phase when people see Batman and go, oh my god, I thought you were just an urban legend, please don't suck my blood. The GCPD are shooting my dude Batman on sight, and it's refreshing to see the initial disdain between him and Jim Gordon. And Harvey Bullock is here too. Why the hell did it take so long to get him into one of these games? That dude's a legend. There's actually a lot of great deep-cut Batman characters running around in Arkham Origins. I don't know if they're here because of the leeway that a game set this early in the Batman timeline affords, or because the writers were forced to scrape the bottom of the villain barrel after the other two games. Either way, it's great to see more obscure folks get their much-deserved time in the spotlight. But here's the thing though. Arkham Origins makes the unfortunate mistake of falling into a trap that a lot of prequels fall into. There is absolutely no reason for Batman to have his very first encounters with so many different characters on this night of all nights. If Batman had met around 2 or 3 new rogues on Christmas Eve, you know, due to them being lured from out of town by the bounty on his head, I would have let that slide. But you expect me to believe that on one night, on one single night, he first encountered the Mad Hatter, Deadshot, Copperhead, the Joker, and more? By choosing that premise, the writers are missing out on all the potential drama that could unfold from Batman actually having established relationships with some of these people. If you send 8 assassins to kill Batman, that alone already feels like an important enough night to craft a story around. You don't have to add artificial importance on top of it. Just like there's no reason for an enslaved kid from the Outer Rim to have built one of the droids that led to the fall of his own empire. It's not necessary. Aside from that one issue, the narrative in Arkham Origins is pretty solid all the way through, with plenty of moments of intrigue and genuine pathos. Any game that lets you come back to the Batcave for some pithy homespun wisdom from Alfred is doing something right, and there are plenty more satisfying moments for Bat fans in this game. Speaking of the Batcave, it feels really satisfying to go there anytime you want and explore a little bit. It's just one example of the general size increase when compared to Arkham City. Arkham Origins world is roughly twice the size of Arkham City, which means that there are a lot more details than ever for eagle-eyed players to find. Shoutouts to Ferris Air and the Flying Graysons, that scratches the nerd itch real good. Woo! New Gotham and its 3 new districts definitely feel different from the old broken down Gotham of Arkham City. But unfortunately, due to some artistic choices, the new districts don't have nearly as strong identities as the old ones. Back in Arkham City, it was great to be able to tell where you were at any time by the subtle colors in the sky, or by the not so subtle landmarks on the ground, like a drowned section of a freeway. While some of the landmarks are still around in the new section of Gotham, the color palette of the entire world is a hazy, snowy white. It makes sense considering the time of year, but now the old districts all look too similar, and I have trouble telling the new districts apart without looking at a map. It's not that big of an issue, but it makes Gotham feel too homogeneous for my taste. But what does look good is Batman. This is, without a doubt, the best looking default Batsuit in the Arkham series, and maybe my favorite Batsuit in any piece of media. It looks practical, clean, and imposing all at the same time. Plenty of other characters look better than ever too, especially Gordon. Remember how he used to look like a giant gnome with a squished in face? He's looking a lot better in this one, isn't he? The lesson is, don't smoke, kids. I was surprised by how quickly I got used to the new voice cast. Not having Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill reprise their iconic roles feels like a recipe for disappointment. But the new actors perform exceptionally well. I know I wasn't the only one to enjoy the new voice acting. Turbo, a member of our Patreon cameo tier, particularly enjoyed one new addition to the voice acting team.
But the one mind-blowing thing that was in the game was that the voice actor for Batman this time around was the same voice actor who voiced Chris Redfield in the Resident Evil games, and the current voice actor for Sonic the Hedgehog, Roger Craig Smith.
The slight change in the characters' voices almost makes sense, since this game technically features a slightly younger version of them. And whoever is on the Arkham sound team that's in charge of creating the bone-crushing sounds for Batman's takedowns haven't missed a freaking beat. You can change Batman's voice, but don't you dare touch his sound! And don't even get me started on the music. It does its job perfectly, as a lot of the time you're not even aware of it. It just seamlessly accompanies the action. It's somehow brooding and energetic at the same time. You know, like Batman music. And the main menu theme goes hard as hell with its incorporation of the Carol of the Bells. Hark, hear the bat, you punk-ass goons. The Arkham series continues to deliver exactly what it's known for. Near quintessential takes on Batman that aren't beholden to one source, but rather pull from almost all of the most beloved interpretations of the Dark Knight. And Arkham Origins just happens to do so with a younger Batman, a bigger Gotham, and a heavy helping of Christmas spirit. I just feel bad for all those kids who were waiting up for Santa that night, only to catch an eye full of a psychotic 30-year-old man with a bat suit stumbling up on their roof. Instant tears. Alfred even warns him about it. That's how you make future supervillains, my man. Well, they've done it again. I keep convincing myself that there's no way they can make a game that makes you feel even more like the Batman. But here we are with Arkham Origins. Its gameplay may be extremely close to Arkham City's, but some of the ways that this game does deviate from the norm contribute heavily to Origins' status as the most accurate Batman simulator I've ever played. This game is a big boy, which is both good and bad. There's tons of outstanding moments along the road to completion, but eventually, Arkham Origins' extra modes and challenges turn a great night out with the Cape Crusader into an absolute chore like a night in with Alfred. Just like in past Arkhams, your job as the Dark Knight is to explore the streets of Gotham and keep an eye out for any puzzles that need solving, thugs that need punching, and armed assailants that need terrorizing. And then more punching. And just like its predecessors, Origins definitely bounces players between these activities to keep the pace interesting. Not to mention all the side activities that you can opt into or out of at will. Basically, you're the goddamn Batman, so you can do whatever the hell you want. And it feels as great as ever to grapple boost your way around Gotham. Not swinging your way through New York City as Spider-Man good, but still pretty good. And now that the city is twice as big, traversal feels more free and exhilarating than ever. If you're good enough, you can glide all the way from the tip top of Park Row, across the Pioneers Bridge, and down to the edges of Burnley without ever touching the ground. But if you ain't got time for that, you can always jump in the Batwing and fly to one of those fast travel points in each district. However, there is one thing that's unpleasant about gliding through Gotham. Throughout the city, there are a couple of buildings that are simply impassable. Sure, you can take the time to completely circumnavigate them, but it really feels jarring and counterintuitive to be gliding along and then get smacked in the face by a huge impediment that, for no apparent reason, Batman can't boost over. For the life of me, I can't figure out why these structures were given these invisible boundaries. It's not like they're marking a perimeter past which Batman can't travel. You can totally go around them. It just sucks to have your momentum abruptly cut off when you're just trying to get from point A to point B. But for the most part, the city is your playground, and your toys are just as deadly as ever. Sorry, not deadly. They're as incapacitating as ever. Rubber bullets, I swear. Plenty of Arkham series staples make their return in Batman's arsenal, but there are some cool new gadgets too, such as the Remote Claw, which trivializes some Predator encounters by letting you remotely string up cronies at the press of a button. Bam, later man. There's also the Concussion Grenade, which confuses anyone caught in its blast radius and is immediately revealed as more trouble than it's worth when the stunned bad guy starts swinging wildly at you. I think this one needs a little more R&D work from Lucius Fox. And then there's the shock gloves, which are absolutely busted. Oh, and they tried to balance these out by requiring your combat meter to be filled up before they can be activated, but they failed. These things will make any combat encounter utterly brain dead. Admittedly, it's fun to bulldoze through armored foes and big bruisers like they're made of tissue paper, but at a certain point, the shock gloves make fights too easy and thusly too boring. Take it from me. If you want the battles in Arkham Origins to stay interesting, only use the shock gloves when you really need them. Especially since there are some dope new enemy types that you'll blow right past if you're constantly shoving electricity up everyone's ass. Like the armored enforcers who you've got to strip before you beat them down. I know what I said. And the martial artists. These dudes are the MVPs of Arkham Origins combat simply because they keep you from slipping into autopilot while fighting. Don't take your strikes on them for granted because they can counter you. Plus, they'll throw attacks at you that have to be multi-countered or countered in a sequence. See, Arkham Origins does bring some cool new to the table. This also includes the Dark Knight challenge tracks. There are 3 separate series of 15 tasks for players to accomplish while they play through the main campaign. One track focuses on combat, one on predator encounters, and one on traversal. And while they may start off simply with challenges like perform 5 counters, they end with assignments like use at least 15 combat variations in a combo hit of at least 50. Yeah, this isn't a video game, it's an operating table, and Batman is the surgeon. They're a great addition for those who want a little extra challenge or direction. But if you're going for completion, it's critical to start addressing these challenge tracks from the moment you first lace up your bat boots. See, the steps on each track have to be done in order, and if you haven't knocked them out all the way by the end of your last campaign playthrough, then they're gone, baby. Gone. And the Predator track in particular is so specific and unforgiving that I was sweating towards the end of it. There were plenty of instances where I'd have the perfect opportunity to knock out like number 12 for instance, but I'd only be on number 10. They got tough, but I appreciated how these challenges encouraged variety in my playstyle. Thankfully, the regular achievements are far more forgiving. That is, except for the ones for defeating Shiva without taking a hit and beating Deathstroke without missing a single counter icon. It may have just been a matter of restarting his fights over and over until they became second nature to me, but that process took a while. I just have to give a special shout out to Deathstroke. This dude is 100% my favorite boss fight in Arkham Origins and one of the best fights in the franchise, to be real. This man has no problem throwing close quarter techniques at your face. He'll counter your strikes just as often as you'll counter his. And he'll even throw some gadgetry in there for good measure. It's like fighting against another Batman. This fight is very reminiscent of the Mr. Freeze fight in Arkham City. Whereas that one was the culmination of all your Predator encounters, this one feels like the pinnacle of Arkham's combat system. Plus, it's freaking Deathstroke, the man who took down the Justice League by himself. Sure, the big 3 weren't there, but that's still insane. Plenty of other villains get their time to shine thanks to the most wanted side quests. Most of them may be rehashes of optional missions from the previous Arkham game, but they're still diverse and enjoyable. That is, except for, surprise, surprise, the Riddler side quest. Don't get me wrong, it's refreshing to tackle some puzzles in between fights. But as I'm sure everyone is aware by now, there is a certain point at, let's just call it a Riddler critical mass, if you will, when collecting his stuff simply stops being fun. And it feels like I hit that point earlier in this game than I did in the other Arkham games. The number of unique types of Riddler puzzles seems reduced. They rarely require any thought on the player's part. You know, like a riddle would. They quickly became duplicated mundane tasks. But hey, at least your Riddler progress carries over between playthroughs. Once that case is closed, it's closed for good. Be gone, Nigma. But you can get your detective fix in another way, as Batman's forensic skills have been given more spotlight in Arkham Origins. There are several mysteries that you can piece together by scanning evidence and reconstructing some crime scenes, and doing so looks and feels dope. You think you can get away with murder in Gotham? Batman's gonna CSI your ass. This is a part of Batman's persona that's been neglected in video games until now. They've always had the ninja stuff, the martial arts, and the brooding down pat. But now, Bruce gets to show off his Holmesian intellect. It's just too bad that these crimes aren't hard to solve at all. They're just involving moving from one obvious clue to the next, and then holding a button. If players actually had to piece things together for themselves, and then make tough choices based on the evidence, we'd be in business. It honestly just feels great to solve a good mystery. Now, the short DLC campaign isn't anything to write home about. There are some hot new gadgets and a dope looking batsuit and some interesting new locations, but being locked off from most of the city was underwhelming. Besides, New Game Plus was beckoning to me. Everyone hits harder, and there are no counter icons. But Batman's already expanded arsenal kind of evens things out. To get that 100% save on your file, you gotta do all the side missions again, but once you get used to the enemy's wind-up animations, New Game Plus is a breeze. In the night mode, on the other hand, is always at least a little bit stressful. Knowing that your whole run can be wiped by one bad jump or one enemy outside of your view is nerve-wracking. If New Game Plus was a speed run, I Am the Night mode was a type boy taking his time. I had to hit that restart button many a time when my health hit 50% because I wasn't risking that shit. But with all of my knowledge from the game and its pitfalls from my previous playthroughs, my third playthrough went fine. But permadeath campaign runs are nothing compared to sheer monotony. The true nightmare begins with Arkham Origins challenge maps. They work just as they always have. Dozens of separate mini missions dedicated to combat and predator encounters. And each of these challenges has 3 different medals you must earn within them by completing 3 different tasks. If you're the kind of player who wants a quick straight shot of Arkham gameplay, then these challenges have got exactly what you need. But for us completionists, they are a hell made out of repetition. The medal tasks range all the way from baby cakes easy to hair pulling tough, with all the combat tasks being a breeze as long as you keep your multiplier high. It's just a matter of getting through them as quickly as possible. Remember what I said about using the shock glove sparingly? Yeah, throw that out the window for the challenge maps. Crank those things up to 11. But things start to get stupidly specific with the tasks the game asks you to pull off in the predator encounters. When the game asks you to take out one guy through a glass ceiling and there's only one of those in the level, sometimes the only thing you can do is wait. Then things even get rougher with the challenge campaigns, groupings of 3 separate challenges in which you have to get all 9 medals, all while applying modifiers, mostly negative by the way, to your run. You can't perform silent takedowns because you used up all the rest of the modifiers on the first 2 maps? Tough. You gotta know the medal tasks and the modifiers like the back of your hand so you can play your campaign runs like the strategic genius that Batman is. Oh, but we're not done there. Arkham Origins decided to add in custom challenges in which you can select whatever modifiers you want for single maps. Being able to customize these challenges however you want is a great idea, but the fact that the developers decided to include a medal tally for these things is killing me. Why? Why did you have to make these irresistible to completionists? Since you can just give yourself only the positive modifiers, these custom challenges are just a bunch of gimmies that take some time. Satisfy all 3 medal tasks and then lay everybody out with your insta-kill batarangs. But let's not forget that I had to do all of this, the regular maps, the campaigns, and the custom challenges with 3 different characters. On top of the bat, you've got Bruce Wayne, who plays like a nerfed Batman, and Deathstroke, who took out the Atom with a laser pointer. Playing as Bruce is cool and all, but it's tough not having access to all of the Bat gadgetry you've grown accustomed to. And while Deathstroke feels more fleshed out with some dope-ass moves all on his own, it doesn't change the fact that you have to do all these medals 3 times over. The challenge mode nearly tripled my time spent completing Arkham Origins, and it's the biggest deterrent this game has to potential completionists. You didn't think I forgot about the multiplayer, did you? Look, it's clear that it wasn't the developer's main focus, and it's clearly not perfect, but there are some good ideas here. If you had to design a third-person shooter based on Batman, you could do a lot worse with this concept. A lobby of 8 players is thrown into 3 different factions: Joker's gang, Bane's gang, and the two heroes of Batman and Robin. The first group to take down enough of the others wins. The problem is, it just doesn't feel good enough to play. The controls aren't tight enough for precision shooting, and getting around is sluggish, which doesn't feel great when you're used to zooming around on the rooftops. Not to mention that it was literally impossible for me to ever find a full lobby. So my team and I went out and bought several more copies of the game and borrowed some Xbox 360s from our local game shop, Bros Game Shop. We still didn't have enough bodies, so we recruited a few people from the TOVG Patreon Discord server to help us out. That's right, if I can't even find matches naturally in your game lobby, I have no remorse for boosting my way to your online achievements. It was an 8-loopy-hour session of setting up weird kills and leveling up all 3 factions until we hit the max level and prestiged. But actually, I ended up having a lot more fun with this multiplayer than I thought. I'm not saying I'd ever willingly turn on some Arkham Origins multiplayer again, but my friends made it fun, and I never could have done it without my backup from my crew and my online ringers. So thanks to you, Fox Garada, Grim, and Deke Cavalon. Even the thing that most people roll their eyes at when it comes to Arkham Origins wasn't even that bad. This game is severely marred by an undeserved bad reputation. It is far from perfect, and I can totally see how this is many people's least favorite Arkham game, but it's still very much Arkham. At the end of the day, Arkham kicks ass. It's an absolute pain to complete thanks to the multiplayer and the challenges, but if you're in it for just the main game, then this is a great way to become the Bat.
Warning, the Completionist does not condone becoming the Bat. Do not go out and fight crime. Do not swear an oath to the memory of your parents. Do not adopt wayward young orphan boys and recruit them into your crusade against injustice. Get plenty of rest. Eat your vegetables.
Looking for big rewards from Arkham Origins is like looking for approval from Batman himself. It's just not gonna happen. But this game does reward players with small cosmetic treats as they complete its content. Just about everything you do will gradually unlock 3D character models, concept art, and more costumes that Batman can wear in New Game Plus and Challenge Mode. You'll even get costumes for completing some of the biggest, toughest challenges this game has to offer. If you collect every last one of Batman's challenge medals, you'll unlock his Injustice costume. And if you get to the max level in the multiplayer mode, and then Prestige, you'll unlock Batman's cool and creepy Blackest Night outfit. And if you manage to clear the entire Dark Knight challenge track, you'll unlock the Dark Knight outfit, which has nothing to do with the film, and is just a darker recoloring of the default costume. For Completionists, this game has 2 faces, no pun intended, with one being a stellar Batman experience and the other being a cold, heartless grind fest to the finish. Although I wish you got something more substantial for reaching these ridiculous milestones, the fact that they acknowledge your accomplishment at all is greatly appreciated. Besides, everyone knows that fashion is one of Batman's greatest powers. When I completed Batman Arkham Origins, there were 24 deaths, 30 online levels grinded, 62 achievements unlocked, 277 Riddler puzzles solved, 1,017 challenge medals earned, 71 hours of total playtime, and only $12.99 for your own copy of The Batman Who Choked Out Christmas. Scare your kids into the Christmas spirit today with this instant classic. If you're an Arkham fan, it'd be a mistake to miss this game. It's far from perfect, but it's got enough of the Arkham magic within it to be pretty great. Completing it may not be worth it, but grappling through Gotham yet again only makes me excited for future adventures with the Dark Knight. Batman Arkham Origins got a bad rap. It was nowhere near as terrible as I heard it was, and I'm glad I finally tried it out for myself. It felt a bit recycled at times, and the completion criteria was a bit outrageous. But for the most part, it's yet another great Batman game in a great Batman series. So, with that in mind, guys, I give this game my completionist rating of complete it.
Complete it!
That's all time we have for today, guys, but before we go, we have the rest of our sponsorship from the guys over at Neo Geo. Earlier, you heard us talk about it, and now I'm going to show you a little bit more in-depth detail, a good look at the Neo Geo Mini. Thanks for watching today's episode. We appreciate you very much, and we'll see you next week for the brand new episode. Hey guys, thank you for watching today's video on Batman Arkham Origins. Today's video is sponsored by the Neo Geo Mini. These guys have been a great support for the show. for this episode. It's been really exciting to work with them in this official capacity. And you obviously heard us talk about the Neo Geo Mini earlier, and so I thought today that I would unbox it myself. I haven't really read much about it, and kind of talk about my initial thoughts and feelings about the whole product and all that fun stuff. And then just as a reminder, they sent us the Neo Geo Mini. However, I'm a big guy with big hands and I need controllers, so I picked these up myself. These are controllers that are sold separately for the Neo Geo Mini. So with that said, let us begin. Included in this bad boy is 40 games, a bunch of Metal Slugs, King of Monster games, Magician Lords on here, Blues Journey, Shock Troopers, a lot of obscure stuff, but a lot of stuff that I think Neo Geo fans would really appreciate. So out the gate here, what do we got? This is really cool. I dig the little arcade aesthetic. I believe there's stickers in here. I want to enjoy customizing and making it my own, just kind of rad. Power cable and stickers. Yeah, so there's little arcade stickers. You can put them on the side. I personally am not a big fan of putting stickers on stuff. I try to keep it as clean as possible, just a thing for me to kind of personally go about it. We have a portable charger to go ahead and play this thing right here, right now. There's a button on the back that feels pretty good when you push it in. Nice little click in, click out situation. And there we go. Looks like the control stick lights up, which is kind of rad. Neo Geo. Ooh. Is there a way to adjust the volume on this thing? So it looks like it does have control ports for the side, so you can hook up controllers to the side. And there is an HDMI out to hook up to a TV as well as a headphone jack if you're trying to go that route. It looks like there is a volume setting on here, so you can kind of make it quieter or louder if you want. There's a brightness setting on the screen if you're trying to keep it a little more personal. So while I really dig the controller built into the screen arcade style feel, I'm a big dude. I really have a hard time with small controller spaces. So I went ahead and picked up these bad boys. I got 2 of them just to see if it'll make the experience any better. I did test it out before we started, and I can already tell you within seconds, this experience is so much better for me. Because I'm a big dude and it's hard to play on a small little stick with buttons. This is much more my style. I'm not the kind of person who would take this on the go, but I absolutely see the appeal of this for those of you who are constantly moving everywhere. And especially if you're someone who really focuses on kind of like single player experiences. This is definitely something that I could see people using for like in-car vacations, or if you are on a plane. It's nice and compact, doesn't take up too much room, and then the fact that you can just plug it into a power adapter or power battery on the go is pretty nice. So now that I've experienced the portable aspect of it, let's actually take a look at some of the aspects of plugging it into a TV, because I'm the kind of guy that definitely wants to sit at home and play it on a cool TV. So there you guys have it. Those are my initial thoughts and impressions on the Neo Geo Mini. If you want to pick one up, there is a link in the description down below. Picking one up supports the show, so help us by picking one up today. And let me know what you think about it in the comments down below. Thank you again to Neo Geo, and thank you guys at home for really making this happen.